today's video, I'm going to show you how to replace a rear brake line. So the tools you need for this job is a 1/2 inch wrench, a 3/8 wrench. This one is a line wrench, especially me, and I suggest everyone that's doing this have a line wrench, especially the ones that's like a crow feet and gets to tight places. Wire cutter, 3/16 wire, WD-40, zip ties, some type of blade, steel nuts, some type of vacuum cap, brake cleaner, full fairing toolkit, brake fluid, .3, and a steel wire bender pliers. And I also forgot, you need some type of filer. On this particular vehicle, the leak is coming from the passenger rear side, around there. We loosen the lug nuts first. Remember to jack it up on the lip, on this right here. Then put the jack stand underneath. Release the pressure from the jack gently. Once you take out the lug nuts, then remove the tire. Alright, there's 2 lines that goes to the rear. This line that has a little loop, this one right here goes to this brake caliper, and then the one that's more straight goes from the back all the way across to the opposite side of the brake caliper. Alright, what we do first is remove the brake fluid with some brake cleaner. So we could actually see where the leak is from. Next, we fill up the master cylinder with brake fluid. So after you put the brake fluid in the master cylinder, you need to have somebody to be inside the car and step on the brakes. You don't need to turn on the car all the way, just halfway, so you have the dash light on, and then from there the person will step on the brakes. So then when that happens, you'll see any leaks. Alright, step on the brake. Let it go. Step on it again. Oh, the leak is right there. Let it go. Step on it again. Let it go. Step on it again. Now keep pumping it. Right there. I saw it squirted out. Alright, let it go. Step on it again. There you go. So the leak is right here. Alright, since we found out the source, where it's leaking from, and we clean that area again. Alright, for certain situations, you might need to use WD-40 to loosen up the bolts due to the rust and whatnot. Gotta use a line wrench. Line wrench is different from regular wrenches, as you can see right here. Line wrench, the purpose of this, so you won't round out the bolts, because some bolts are rusty, and with this you can round it out and then you're in some deep trouble. So you use a line wrench for that. So 3/8 for this vehicle. And then certain situations alone, using just one wrench is not gonna cut it, because even using a line wrench is probably gets real jammed up in there, so the whole unit will move, and you're not trying to do that because you'll break other components. So I suggest you use wrench on the top and wrench on the bottom. and then crisscross it like an X to loosen it. Just like that. Okay, once you get that loose, these little things right here, these zip ties that holds it, there's one right here, there's one right there, and there's two on the bottom. You just cut that loose. So with that brake line, you follow it all the way through right here, next to the fuel filter. You don't need to keep going through, because for this car, everything's alright for this side. It's only the rear that has the leak. So it's from this point on. So to unloosen this, spray some WD-40 and use the same technique that I did on the other side. So it's giving me trouble. It's because when I twist, this whole hose over here on this side is starting to spin with this. So everything else is rusted real good. So what I'm gonna do instead is use this cutting tool to cut the hose from here, and then I can unscrew it easily. Then to stop the leaking, because the master cylinder has brake fluid, you put these rubber caps on. And there you go. Now you can loosen it the rest of the way without all this brake fluid dripping all over you. Alright, this is the old piece. If you want to take the new ones, I'm going to take the new piece right here and try to match it up. From this end, I'll say give it a lot of extra room just in case, and cut it from right here. So always give it a good foot long additional, just in case any errors you could correct. Now we're going to use this circumcise tool and cut up the hose. Just tighten it up, do it again, tighten it up, do it again. There you go. I wonder if Jewish people circumcise their babies with this. So the best way to do this, without letting this swim around, dance around, to get it as closely accurate as possible, I suggest you use zip ties. Now the zip ties, you hold it in place so you can actually mimic the curvature of the hoses. Like for example, it bends over here. So what we're gonna do, clamp this and mimic the bend. Now it's going the opposite way, but I'm gonna show you in a second. I think that's good right there. Now what you do, you flip it, you get something similar to it, just like that. Now what you don't want to do is kink the hose. Kinking it is you go all the way too much and you have like a little dent. That's bad. The reason why is because when you press on the brake fluid carries, some of them is like 6,500 psi of pressure. So having a kink at the hose, they'll end up something similar to this, having a crack and all the fluid come out. But the reason for this is because this car came from north, so the salt, the snow, all that corroded this. It was done, all the bends with the tool. The rest you could do by hand. That doesn't need to be 100% perfect. It has to be close to it. You have a tiny bends here and there, little ups and downs, that's fine. You squeeze it to get it in place. Up here, squeeze this, going down right there. And this, it's fine. It don't need to do that little dip to come up. Mine is different, but it's still a nice flow. But this is as close as you can get it. So, then what you do next, these nuts right here, remove one cap, add this nut, facing this way though, the thread's facing outward, not this way. You want it this way. Put the cap back on so it won't fall out. Then for this side, do the same thing. Cap back on so it won't fall out on you. The next step what we'll do is use the flaring kit. You're gonna double flare this on both ends. The reason why to double flare it, so when the nut goes up, the hose, the flaring hose will stay seated onto the nut perfectly so it won't come out. Now there's two different types of flaring. There's double flaring and then there's bubble flaring. Bubble flaring is actually just one flare, and I recommend not to do this. Do not bubble flare either ends of the hose. The reason why is because with the pressure that this has, like I said, around 6,500 psi, give or take, that single flare alone, it's not going to hold enough pressure, and what will happen, it will just snap off. So you need to do it twice, double flaring, so it has more security to it. Let's take the new hose that we cut. Here's the vise. We're going to match it up to the 3/16, because this hose right here is 3/16, so you match it to that. But before you match it to this side of the hose, as you can see, the way it flares out, we're gonna do it the opposite side. Adjust it to this side, tighten it, tighten this in. Now, this is sticking out too much. You want it to loosen this up a little bit. Alright. You want it to stick out just a little bit. Just that much right there. So we're going to start following this down so it has a nice smooth surface, because when we use that cutting tool, it leaves some edges, rough edges around the corner. So we're going to use this to file it down nicely. Now once you get this nice and flush, you shave it off real well. It's flat to the surface. You start to take it out. Now we get to use the other side. Now the next step, what you'll do, since shaving it down, you have rough edges. You're gonna take this and shave it outward to make it nice and smooth. A real sharp knife or some type of automotive blades, and we'll take the center and start scraping out the sides inside the center. The reason why is because when we scrape this way and scraping down, some of the metal probably bent inside of it and it's jagged inside. So with the knife, we fish it right out in a circular motion. And what we do to have a nice smooth transaction of spinning, we're gonna take some silicone, or you could use anti-seize, you could use any type of lubricant or grease, and spray it on here before you start the process of flaring. Brake fluid, you put it around the edge. The reason why, to give it a nice little lubrication so the metal won't seize against the other metal when you apply a lot of pressure to it. Just at the tips. Do not use any type of grease or nothing like that, because this is a brake line. You don't want that to mix in with the brake fluid. Just keep it this brake fluid. It does the job well. Now next step, we're going to take this adapter. It's 3/16. Remember, this is a 3/16 line. Don't focus about any of these other adapters. We're going to use this one right here. It seats perfectly. That's good. So we're going to adjust this so it can match up to this right here. The first step, not the second one. The first step, it has to match up perfectly. Right there is perfect. Alright, so for the next step, what you use is tighten this up, then use a screwdriver. You want this extremely tight as possible. Hold your body into it. Adapter on here, and you set up this York. Just so. Make sure it's nice and balanced. And start twisting. Slowly at first. So make sure you twist a little, you stop, you check, see is everything balanced, twist again. You twist until you can't no more. And now you take it out. And here you have it. That's pretty good. Now, that's the first flaring. Now for the second flaring, you just use this by itself. And you press down on it. This looks like it's gonna come out beautiful. A nice flare. Nice and flushed. Remove the vise. So you have a nice little mushroom tip action going on here. And it's flushed right there nicely. So it's not gonna come out. Here, behind the strut, you tie this up first. You screw this up real tight. Then you'll notice you have extra room, so you'll start bending different shapes and whatnot, but don't kink the wire. You don't want to kink the wire real good, so keep it like this, because you want to zip tie this area like this. You want this away from this. This is the sway bar. Alright, so you're going to zip tie this section right here. Nice and snug. Zip tie this other one. This section right here. He cut off the end. See, so now I could just play around with this to avoid this right here. But the back side is not rubbing against the strut. It's not touching the sway bar. So when the vehicle goes back down, the back tire starts bumping from the road, it's not damaging this at all. Alright, on this line right here, Just connect this piece to it, and you're almost done. Then you go to the back, and you bleed it from here. But this is like so rusted in, bolted in. You see, I was starting to strip it, so our second best bet is to bleed it right here. Now we'll put everything back. The rear tire. The lug nuts. Hand tighten. Now we tighten it as much as we can. 1, 2, 3, 4. Always across. Back up the vehicle. Once jacked up, remove the jack stand. Then lower the vehicle. And then we're going to tighten it the rest of the way. And then put the good old cap on. There you go. Mission complete. So if you like today's video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. If not, just give me a middle finger.